Good day everyone, especially Dr. Cynthia and my fellow friends. Today we are presenting the Director's Playbook, a pedagogical framework designed to bring Shakespeare to life for ESL learners at the CEFR B1 level. So this is curated by Ms. Khuzaimah binti Ibrahim and me myself, Nurjaziza binti Muhammad, for our teaching literature subject. Alright, now we look into the director's note, which is to address the anxiety barrier. Therefore, we are going to look into the drama task pedagogy. What are the challenge and the vision? So let's start with the hard truth. Shakespearean text consists of archaic vocabulary and complex syntax, which often triggers reading anxiety and passive disengagement in intermediate learners. Therefore, our vision is to use this drama to transform students from passive reader into becoming an active performer. So by stripping Romeo and Juliet down to its universal core, themes like love, family conflict, and personal choice, we would like to bypass the rote memorization and allow these themes to resonate deeply with the adolescent's experience in real life. Next, let's look into the pedagogical shift matrix slide. To achieve this pedagogical shift, we must shift our approach from traditional literature teaching into the drama-based approach. Why do we need to do so? Because if we look into this table, we can see that the traditional literature teaching often relies on teacher-centered analysis and passive reading, which leads to high speaking anxiety, especially when they need to express personal opinion directly. However, if we look into the drama-based approach, this utilizes CLT, which is known as communicative language teaching. By the name itself, we know that it is learner-centered based and focuses on meaning negotiation and lowers anxiety by allowing students to communicate safely behind the mask of a fictional persona. And this aligns with the MOE 2021's curriculum, which said that emphasis on collaboration and higher order thinking skills, HOTS. Alright, from the task-based pedagogy that we talked before, we're going to illustrate the scaffolding funnel. By using this scaffolding funnel is how we get the student to understand better for our Shakespeare. So we start with the authentic or raw material and that involve the complex Shakespearean themes and Elizabethan tragedy. And after that, we're going to narrow it down into the visual prediction, whereby this is to activate the background knowledge by using the visual cards. For example, we show the Verona, feuding families, or the swords. So by having these cues from visual, we are going to pre-teach the high leverage terminology, which is feud, tragedy, banish, fate, or honor. So by after that, we're going to adapt the script by simplify the dialogue, preserving the original narrative weight without archaic syntax. So our goal here is for clarity and engagement. Therefore, by having this scaffolding, by going through this scaffolding funnel, we hope that the students, or especially the intermediate learners, were able to understand better. What's next after the pedagogy funnel? Let's look into the 4 skills integration engine. This isn't just a speaking activity, it's a continuous engine for all 4 language skills. If we can see here, reading is the adapted script in order to comprehend the plot, emotions, and character conflict. And for speaking, it's actually the performance itself, which necessitates by focusing on oral fluency, pronunciation, and emotional expression. And for this listening is listening to peers and culminates in writing through the character maps and reflection. Each skill is interdependent, building toward holistic proficiency. Alright, in anything that we do, timing is everything. So let's look into this production schedule that consists of energy and engagement topography. As a directors, we must manage students' energy. We start with a 20-minute warm-up by prediction and vocab, and build a strategy incline through the guided reading, and hit our maximum peak output around the 40 to 60 minutes mark with the live performances. We then allow for a cooling down period for cognitive focus and reflection in the final 15 minutes. Act 1. Pre-lesson. In Act 1, we activate the student schema. Before reading a single word, students look at imagery like crosswords on the balcony to predict the narrative. We also preemptively reduce language barrier by focusing on the targeted lexicon of only 6 words. For example, here we can see in the vocabulary worksheet there are 6, which consists of feud, tragedy, banish. Before we delve into the story, this is Act 1 pre-lesson. In Act 1, we activate the student schema to ensure that the student able to predict the narrative purely through imagery. For example, if as shown here is a cross swords on the balcony to predict the narrative, and this is to stimulate the curiosity before reading a single word. And now let's look at the targeted lexicon. We also preemptively reduce language barrier by focusing on this targeted lexicon taken by the story. This is to ensure that they are not overwhelmed by it. So as listed here in the vocabulary worksheet, there are 6 lexicon that consists of feud, tragedy, banish, balcony, owner, and fate.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Jazriza. So I'll be taking over. So in Act 1, as we know, they already read the story, and then they have like read about the role. For Act 2, they have to do a role play. So um, we emphasize character, objective, and inner conflict using the card, and they have to use this card for live role play preparation. So for example, if the person have to be Romeo, so the task is to convince Juliet, your love is sincere and worth the risk, and then the emotion that they have that the student have to portray here is to be confident and passionate, while if the person have to be Juliet, so she or he, or it could be anyone, need to explain the importance of family honor and how difficult this decision is. So the emotion that the person have to portray here, to convey here, is feeling confused, sad, and being hopeful. So and then the student will take turn. They have to choose who they want to be, the nurse, the fire Lawrence, the Romeo, or Juliet. Okay, so how the performance is being executed. So the directive, groups of 4 have to rewrite the adapted balcony scene into modern English while preserving original meaning. It could be that they change the word in modern English for better understanding, or change it into a modern time, something like that. So the rehearsal will take about 10 minutes. Student practice natural speech, focusing on pronunciation, expression, and eye contact. Okay, so the performance scenes are performed live for the class. So each and every group have to perform this scene. Okay, if you want to put a very creative remark, they could do something creative about it without changing the meaning or without the changing the plot. Okay, so here communicative language teaching is in action because focus is on meaning, fluency, and emotional truths rather than perfect grammar. Okay, so the analysis afterwards we will do the analysis. So we could give like a worksheet so and put the character dilemma matrix here. So when they have analysis, when they have analyzed and they have done the role play, so they have to answer this. For example, Romeo, what is the co-decision action, and then the reason. Reason they have to provide with the textual evidence, and then the immediate consequences from the action, and then what is the better alternative. So here it's integrated with hot question. They have to they have to think about another solution for the story. So the key insight is to force students to evaluate character agency rather than just recalling plot points, bridging the gap between empathy and textual evidence. Okay, so um, it is to create a better understanding about literature's text and to make them feel interested about it. Okay, so this is the scaffolding staircase. So first, the base level is to understand why do Montague and Capulet dislike each other, and then why must Romeo and Juliet keep their relationship secret. And then for the analysis in the mid level, which character made the best decision and why? How did the family conflicts influence their choices? And for the horse, the evaluation horse peak level, if Romeo and Juliet live in Malaysia today, would their story end differently? Or should children always obey their parents? Support your opinion. So this is very interesting. There could be a very interesting debate to be done in the classroom after everything. So actually the review for the formative assessment. So after all the activity that I've done, first we could do a gallery walk where peer will evaluate their works. So the group display their decision maps, and then other students will come and use sticky notes to leave one positive comment and one suggestion. So it focused on collaborative learning and respectful peer critiques. Okay, it promote constructive feedback loop. Okay, a great idea, for example, like this. Oh, it's a great idea, and then consider alternatives like this. Okay, and then give strong evidence for something like that. So for exit decade synthesis, sentence start the prompt. Today I discovered that, okay, they have to give their own personal reflection and also intercultural connection. Okay, for example, today I discovered that character motivation can be complex across culture. Okay, and then self-assessment metrics where we could use Likert scale on metrics, like how do you understand how I understand the story from 1 to 5. Okay, do you understand the story or not? I was confident speaking in English. I enjoy acting. Who knows that from this role play we could spot student talent in acting. Okay, so learner-centered approach. Yeah, okay, for critical thinking. Okay, now this actually learner-centered approach. Okay, drama transform Romeo and Juliet into an interactive learning experience through role play, discussion, and reflection, supporting the CEFR curriculum, where language development it integrates reading, writing, listening, and speaking with scaffolding, adapted text, vocabulary support, collaboration, making Shakespeare accessible to Malaysian ESL learners. Okay, communication and critical thinking. So, okay, with role play, we build confident motivation and communicative competence while encouraging analysis, problem solving, and intercultural awareness. Okay, so the challenge. Okay, Shakespearean language. Yeah, it's a very old English language. So with mixed ability learners and time constraint, it required differentiated instruction and multimedia support for better understanding and effective classroom management. So this is where the teacher comes for as a guidance. Okay. And as in term of assessment improvement, we could use formative assessment like worksheet, role play, peer or self-reflection, and then the teacher monitor progress, and the student can monitor their peers' progress as well. While digital tools and AI can further enhance engagement and language learning. So, drama proof that teaching literature is not all about dissecting a text, but it's about breathing life into language. Okay, so that's all for our presentation. Thank you so much.